Okay.
Today's November 21st, 2001. We're interviewing Mr. Robert Ellsworth Leonard at the Culver Road Armory in Rochester, New York. Michael Akey, interviewer. Wayne Clark, videographer. Mr. Leonard, where were you born, sir?
Audubon, New Jersey.
Oh, did you grow up in Audubon?
No, I had three sisters born in Syracuse before me.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was on the Central, conductor, so he went back for it, and he met my wife down in New Jersey, where her family was all from England. So he had three girls up in Syracuse, and then my mom, she got pretty homesick. She wanted to go back to New Jersey, so she had me and my younger sister, Audubon. So she passed away at 29 years old.
Oh dear.
So then we went to, he got married again, but it only lasted a while. So then the priest in Rochester, New York, got us into foster homes. So I was alone the rest of my life.
You grew up in Rochester, pretty much?
No, I got out in the country, like Ionia, Victor, different places.
Where'd you go to school?
Well, let's see. I went to Ionia school. I was an 8th grader in one little building. Then from there I went to Victor. I lived in a family where they had 14 foster boys, so I went to school there in Victor. And then the last school I went to was the new school in Victor. Then from there I went into the CCCs in the 8th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell us about, what was that like?
Oh God, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You sign up and you go into camp. You have to work 40-hour weeks. They pay $30 a month. You got more there than you did in the Navy.
Really?
Navy was $21 a month. So they send home, they keep just $5, and the guy come around and with the tobacco, and we'd steal stuff on him. He knew we were doing it. Then different stuff, roll your own, this and that, and it was rough. We had to get up early in the morning, 5 in the morning. We had barracks. There's 3 stoves in it. Soft coal they burned. It's up around Adirondacks, Averill Park, New York, to Camp the Comet.
Now, where was it again?
Camp the Comet.
Okay.
Up in Adirondacks, Averill Park, New York.
Okay. What type of things did you do?
We get on the trucks. We always get on the trucks in the morning. We look for pest control, the bugs. We're killing the beetle bug. I stayed there 6 months, but the first 3 months we were in the woods every day. We burn a fire, we bring lunches with us. And then from there we fought a few fires in the spring. That was the end of that. But we were always on a truck every day, doing something.
So you did this for about 6 months or so?
6 months.
Okay.
The only reason I got out because I wanted to go in the service. See, I was 16 there. I was under age, but they let me in. Then when I turned 17, I went in the Navy.
So you got in the Navy just prior to Pearl Harbor?
Oh yeah, I went in November.
Okay. Now, you didn't go into the National Guard at that point, did you? Or
No, that was after I come out.
All right. So you went into the Navy in November of '41. Why'd you want to go to the Navy?
It's the way I was brought up in foster home. See, they had kids of their own, but we didn't get along, and they gave me chores to do, and I loved it. That's how I learned how to work. Turned the soil over. It was out in Ionia, New York. It was like a half acre or so. And I put plants in, and then we'd take it in the fall when they grew up. We'd take them into the fairs, the hemlock fair and all those. We'd go through there. Then I was in the Boy Scouts. And then
You're busy.
2 summers in a row, they put me in Camp Corey, Lake Seneca Lake, or whatever it is down there. Because I was a good boy, they said. Better than some of the other boys, child kid.
So you went into the Navy at 16?
Yeah, no, 17.
17.
See, I was 17 in October, and in November I went in.
Okay, and where'd you do basic?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Oh, hardest one on earth.
Really? What
I
was
loved it. I loved it.
Tell us about that.
Well, it was boot training, you know, and then the war come on. So they got us out of there in a hurry. I forget how many weeks we put in there. I love that too. I got along real good. And I got seaman third class when I went. Then from there they shipped it down to Virginia aboard the USS Harry Lee. That was the first ship.
What kind of ship was that?
Same as the other one.
Which was a
AP, no, that was an AP.
AP.
But it was the same type of ship. But they didn't have the nets and stuff. But they kept us down there for a while till Thomas Jefferson got commissioned. And we went right on there.
So you're a plank holder for the Thomas Jefferson?
What?
A plank holder? You commissioned, you were on
Oh,
board?
yeah, absolutely. We were the first one down there.
Okay. What did you think of that ship?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
What were your duties?
Well, I was a seaman for quite a while. I worked myself up to first class seaman, which is a pretty good rate in them days. And I had portions of the ship I had to take care of, but we always had bosses, you know, one a little higher than us. And we'd splice the line, splice cables, take care of the boats. We had 30 boats on Weldon Davis to hang over the side. At any time anybody needed help, we'd fill in and help them. Well, just helpers.
Okay. Who was the skipper at that point?
Pardon?
Who was the skipper? Captain?
Oh, I think it was Barbaro, if I'm not mistaken.
What was he like?
Bad.
Really? Why?
He didn't like nobody.
Oh.
I'll tell you a funny story though. When we went over in Scotland, they give you 24-hour liberty because of the color, you know, black. It stays black for 24 hours. So this friend and I come up with a couple of girls. You could only have one beer in that places, you know. So he wanted to go back to the ship, and we met these girls, and I took the one girl and said, why don't you come home tonight? So I went home with her. I woke up, and I had to go back to the ship. You know, the ship wasn't going to move because it was lack long. It was parked there for a while. So I brought a dog home with me, a little puppy. And he gave me a summary court martial for it, and we named the dog Summary. And you know, eventually when we went to New York, he took that dog home with him.
Really?
He wouldn't give me an end, but I had to take care of the dog.
So the dog did come aboard?
No, I brought him aboard. I put him under my shirt.
How did you find out you had a dog?
By a scuttlebutts or whatever they call it. Always somebody talk, you know, squeal on you.
What was your general quarters station on the ship?
Well, I had a 20 millimeter. There's 3 of us on each one. Then we had a 3-inch gun. We didn't have too much in the line of guns.
Okay.
We always had destroyers with us. Yeah. But we got a couple planes during one of the invasions.
So the 20 millimeter was mainly for anti-aircraft?
Oh yeah, that's about all they're good for. The 3-inch is just, we had to man it all the time, regardless. We got what they went in Italy, and you know, the 88s they had in Italy, and we had a 3-inch. You can imagine what it do to us. So.
Now, what was your first cruise?
Oh, let's see. When we left, we went overseas. First we got troops.
Okay.
And we started training the troops. I can't remember everything in there,
that's all right.
but what it does, we trained these troops. They were all trained when they came aboard. But when we got overseas, if there was an opening someplace, we right in the middle of the night, we had general quarter and over the side, they go in on nets in the boats, and away we go. Fidela Bay was the first invasion.
Okay.
That's Africa. And I went ashore. I was a volunteer. There was a few volunteers aboard ship. It was like the sea bees. Before they started, we were alligators.
Okay.
We went ashore in that one invasion.
Now, what did you do?
Well, we had to help the troops. Once we got ashore, we went ashore before they did, then they come in and we helped them whatever we could do. But in between time, a Stuka come over and dropped a bomb on us. There was 5 of us in a foxhole. And we all got out but this one guy, and he was a pharmacist mate from our ship. And he was the #1 casualty at that time. We couldn't get him back because of sand. So in between time, there was 4 other APAs that got torpedoed in that invasion. It's right in there too. We were just outside of Casablanca, Padella Bay, just outside. But there's a channel, and those submarines were laying right in that channel. When we made invasion, see, they were in there, and we didn't know it. One torpedo come at our ship. I wasn't on it, but they told us later. And the skipper turned the ship around and it missed it. They sunk 4 of them right there. And then when we came back, we had to help survivors from the other ships, you know, stuff like that.
So that was your first combat experience?
Glad of it. Oh God, it was terrible. We stayed on the beach. We had to bring bodies aboard, and we put them down in an ice box. And at that time, believe it or not, we had about 10 funerals right over the site. I can't believe they did that, but they did it. We didn't have no hospital ship and no place to put them.
Right.
So from then on, it was a different story. They'd take them ashore if they couldn't leave them. But
They had burials at sea?
I think there are 8 or 10 of them.
Okay.
This one guy, this friend of ours, we put him down too.
So what was North Africa like?
Well, I don't know. We finally got up in the channel and docked at one of the docks there, and we were right alongside the Jean Bart. You heard about Jean Bart, that battleship that couldn't
French
go?
battleship.
Well, we docked up in there and unloaded the rest of the ship, and then we come back, and we were always on the go. Here, the States, back here. Then right back we go again and get some more troops for the next invasion.
Where was the next invasion?
Scaleti, Sicily.
Well, you're all over the place.
From Scaleti, we went to, I can't think of it.
That's all right. What was the invasion of Sicily like?
Bad. We lost a lot of boats. This is when the LSD come in and they dropping paratroopers. Our ships were, you know, the airplanes were dropping the airplane with the troops, and they were shooting at it. They put out a word, all the ships, hold your guns, don't fire. And this one LSD come in there and shot a whole mess of them off out of the skies. That was Scaleti. And we lost a lot of boats, you know, on the rocks. Then Salerno was the next one. That's right down the road. That was a bad one, because we couldn't get in at first, and all this time I'm aboard ship doing different things, you know, helping them in the boats or whatever they needed. So then that was a real bad one. So we got out of there, and that's when Italy surrendered that night when we were in that harbor. So in between time, we're going back and forth with troops. There's always a load of troops.
Going back to England?
No, back to the States.
Back to the States?
Yeah.
Oh.
3, 4 different times we went back there, I believe. So.
Usually traveling in convoy? Traveled in convoy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We had destroyers, boy, and well, the British helped us a lot too.
How'd they help?
They had destroyers. You know, you wouldn't see them. Well, you know how rough the North Atlantic gets. You couldn't see a destroyer because they'd be under the water all the time. Anyway, but they were always out there. But they took a good toll of the civilian ships. Took a lot of them.
How seaworthy was your ship in North Atlantic?
Well, it almost went over on the way home one time. I can't think where it was. I think it was just before we were going back for France invasion. We had to go in the dry dock and put new ballast underneath us, because I was standing watch up in a crow's nest, you know, in the front of the ship. When they go over, you can almost touch the water, and that's probably 30 feet off the deck. You can imagine when you go over like this.
Must have been pretty scary.
It bothered me. We were all scared. We were all scared, but you grow on it because you see so many awful things. Then from Salerno, we backed up. They took us in, and let's see, from Salerno we went right into, what's that? Rome. Not Rome, what's the other one? Naples.
Naples.
And they put us on a train and took us up through Pompeii City for a day. Rest us, you know, make us feel good. We come back, but we couldn't help Anzio at all. They were tearing those people apart like there's no tomorrow. The Germans were right in Naples when we pulled in. They were right in the city. But then when our next convoy came up in there, they took out. They really got chopped up bad. But nothing we could do. See, we had nothing, just our guns, and useless. So they shipped us right back again for the big one.
Now, you're part of the invasion of Normandy?
Well, we went back and got troops to the United States, and then we come back. I can't remember everything in
Okay.
it. We came back anyway, and we trained those troops in Weymouth. Well, Scotland. Well, we brought a load of troops to Scotland. In between time, I don't know, just one. That's one trip we made. So we brought these troops back, and we went into Weymouth first, I think, and trained them. At night, go over the side, and we were on an island, like landing there. Then they moved us to Portsmouth. That's the next one down. Now you're getting closer to Normandy. And that's how they worked it. That would draw the Germans open. See, then our bombers would come over. That's how they did that. But we had one guy who was first class. Well, he was the coxswain. He was a first class petty officer. And he got suspended for something. So he had to go in a boat that night when they went ashore with the troops. And they were shooting over their head, you know, practice. And one of them got him right through the body, and that was number 2. That's only 2 in the whole war.
So he was killed by accidentally?
Yeah, well, it was on maneuvers.
Oh.
So after that, then we got ready to go. And
Did you get any
I think there was a PT boat that took us up the channel.
Did you get any shore leave while in England?
No.
No.
Well, they went ashore for 6 hours, but I was restricted, so I had to look through the binoculars when they were playing with the girlies. They had all these British women with the anti-aircraft guns on the beaches.
Oh, really?
That's about the only fun we had, I guess. No, I couldn't get over what they do. I was a signalman then. I became a signalman third class. And I'd flash my light, see, and I'd see them through binoculars. Then this one guy could, show me how to, or he'd ask me where the women were. So by my light, I'd send it, and then he'd go where the women were, see. That's how we were working back and forth.
So you're part of the invasion of Normandy. You say some PT boats took you up the
I think
channel?
it was a small boat. I think it was just a scout boat, the leader. There was 4,500 vehicles in that invasion, in one convoy, so they say.
Where did you land?
Well, we just stayed put in that little town there that I told you.
Off
In
the
there.
sand.
Yeah, well, we were laying in that area, see, and we didn't do nothing until they give us the word. So at that time, I was a signalman. So they picked me for the lead boat to go on, on the beach. So this Charlie Lee from Rochester was a radioman. So what we do, when we're getting ready to pull our maneuvers, they'd put us in a boat. There'd be the coxswain and one man. There's 2 guys in the boat. One has to watch the front of it when the ramp goes up and down. The other guy drives it. So there's a turret on each side of those landing boats. You ever see one of them? Think of them. So I would be in this one here, and the radio man would be here. So he'd take all the orders from the ship, what to do. Then they'd relay it to me. So they put us in the one boat, put us down. Then we start just driving around the ship. And as we drove around the ship, they were lowering all these other boats, and they'd have to get in line with us and stay behind us. Yes. And I'd have, this meant go abreast and straight is stay straight. So they'd follow me all the time. And then finally we took off and they gave us a sign to go in, and then I gave them a line abreast and we took off and went in. It was bad.
Now, were you in the first wave in?
It was the only wave
Okay.
in that beach. Only wave.
Okay.
We were the first boat in. No, not necessarily, they all come right in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they just walked right into the water. The tide was in.
Mm-hmm.
He kept telling us, don't go in there one day because we lost so many people from drowning. They gave us gas masks. We had to save stuff that, you know, the GIs had. When they come off that ramp, we couldn't help them. They'd holler. We couldn't get off the boat.
Hmm.
If we stepped off the boat, we're going under with them.
Yeah. So the water was...
We went in as far as we could. Mm-hmm. We went into the obstacles. There's that, you know, they had the mines in there. Mm-hmm. But they claimed a lot of them. I don't know. I can remember just going in and he hollered. He says, Bobby, he says, get back in the boat. He says, we got to get out of here. So they told us to get out of here. Back off and go.
Mm-hmm. So the Germans were firing...
They were from up above.
Okay.
Up, you know, the mountain there.
Okay. And the landing boat is armed with what?
Nothing.
Nothing.
You got nothing.
No machine guns?
If you was on a special mission, you'd have machine guns, but we never had machine guns in those turrets. They were built for machine guns, but we never had them. For no reason. We didn't need them.
Okay.
Because you got all this power behind you. They had these LST rocket ships. Mm-hmm. You know, these rockets, they'd fire right over us. We were sitting right there and they're firing right over us. Mm. And once they drop, that's the only scare I got out of the service. I'll tell you, it was bad. We didn't know when we were going to get it. But we got hit there. That night they surrendered in Italy there, we got hit. It was, we felt it, but we didn't find out until the next day. But it didn't go through. It was just a, I don't know, we don't know what it was. We think it was a Italian sub that came up on it. Hmm. That's when they surrendered.
Mm-hmm. Now, so you landed on the beach.
We didn't get, well, we dropped them off there.
Okay. About how deep was the water at that point?
Geez, I don't know. I know some of them were up to here, some of them were down to here, and we couldn't get in no further.
You remember what unit you were taking in?
We had a 82nd something there. I don't remember it. I think most of it's right in there.
And so your landing craft was ordered back after you...
We absolutely. We go right back, bring all the boats back, put them up. We didn't lose no boats. And by afternoon, late afternoon, we were back on the way again. We went back over the channel, and then we went back to the States to get more troops.
Okay.
Then the next one was southern France.
Oh, really?
We caught the Germans off guard there because they sent them to southern France to give them a rest. Mm-hmm. Some guy did a lot of fighting, you know. So we dropped the troops off, and then we came back. We went over to Oran after I got and picked up Arab troops, took them in there for reinforcement. We got 2 loads.
Were they French?
Arabs, right out of the desert, they're out of from Oran and Arzu. That's where we. Mm-hmm. Then we took them in. As far as I can remember, we came back out of there, and then I think we went back to the States, back to Virginia, someplace, their home base in Newport News. Mm-hmm. Then the next one would be Okinawa.
So you were fought in both Pacific and Atlantic?
When they surrendered over there, we had Europe pretty well closed off. Mm-hmm. So when we went to Okinawa, they needed help too. So we went in, we were in and out of the first ship the whole bunch.
What was Okinawa like?
Well, we had Seabees. We had put Seabees aboard to help us unload, see, so it was nasty. Our flagship, the Henrico, sat out alongside of us. She had troops, but she got her troops in. And one of those Jap planes came down and took the whole top of the ship right off. That was our flagship. Then from there, we went over to Pearl Harbor. From there, we stayed there till they converted us again for Sasebo. That was our next invasion. That would have been a real big one. Real big.
So at Okinawa, you had to deal with the kamikazes?
Absolutely. We made one trip from Newport News, Australia, without an escort.
How fast was your ship? How fast was your ship?
Just a liner. It was one of the president lines, you know, that Thomas Jefferson was. Garfield, the name was. But we went over, and that's in there too, where how we got over and got back. And when we come back to go into the canal, you know, the big canal down there, there was a plane overhead. Nobody see it. It was some kind of a bomber, our bomber. You know, they patrol the waters. We never see it, and then the old man, boy, did we get home for that.
Really?
We see the plane, we had no problems, though. We went over to Brisbane, unloaded, and turned around and come back.
How was the morale on the ship usually?
Geez, I can't think of anybody going bad. I can't. Well, we had, we had a shooting. See, we had black people for cooks. All your ships did at that time. And one cook, one of the black guys shot one of the black guys. That was a killer. We got wind of that, and I don't know what happened.
So after Okinawa, you got ready for Sasebo?
Yep.
And
What they did there, they took our ship, and half of it they made for troops, and the other half was, it tells on there, it made a beautiful hospital ship out of it. For that big, it's going to be real big. And before they got completely through, the war was over. So they said, we're gonna go over anyway and unload our troops there, which we did. We unloaded the troops. With no boat or nothing, we kept the boat right on, they just walked right off. Then when we left there, that's when the scuttlebutt came about, that anybody wanted to go, you know, if you had your 4 years in the regular Navy, that you'd get off here, because we ain't going back to the States right away. So we fell for it.
now that was the Philippines?
Yeah, they dropped us off at the Philippines, San Fernando Valley. I don't know, for 2 weeks we laid in there. Then from there we got a ship to Seattle, cross country to down here to the base, which is based down here.
Sampson?
Geneva? Yeah, Sampson. So when we were going in there, guy comes running up to me, he said, hey Bob, he says, how the hell you doing? So what they did, instead of going back over, after they dropped us off, they went right to New York. Right straight to New York, and took everybody off that wanted to go home.
So you took
And the only reason he was there, see, he caught the clap somewhere along the line. So they held him in there. That's how he happened to come up. Everybody knew me because I was a signalman then. I used to call different ships and find out the different people, you know. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it real bad. But that hurt me. Then we had from Sampson, we had a hitchhike all the way to Canandaigua. We go in and have a beer. Then we come out, started hitchhiking, the car picked us up. And I said, oh my God, I said, I left my papers in the bar. So the guy turned around, come back and got the papers for me.
Well, that's nice of him.
Oh man, was it ever.
So you were discharged out of Sampson?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got a ride home finally to my sister's.
You didn't think about staying in?
I wanted to stay in. I wanted to get home and see my baby. That's all I wanted to see. I had no idea, you know, that I wanted to be a serviceman all my life.
So what did you do after you were...
Oh, I went through hell. I had stress probably for 5 years.
Really?
Probably a good 5 years. I worked all the time. Anything I could do, I'd work and work. And made good jobs, and she screwed me up on a lot of my jobs. But I still keep working. So then when I went in Buffalo for my operation, when I got hurt on the B&O, the doctor wanted to know what was going on. I said, I don't know, Doc. I said, some days I want to drink, other days I don't want to. So then he told me what to do. He says, try to do what you can do. But he said, do one thing for me. If you overdo it again like you do. See, I used to sleep in my car. I'd get so stretched out. I didn't know what to do. He says, you sign yourself in. So 3 times I signed myself in. Once in Canandaigua, another time in Clifton. There was one other, Canandaigua. I signed myself in on my own.
So the stress was from your
Service.
the service?
Between that and my wife.
Okay. Now, you joined the National Guard for a while?
Yeah.
When did you join them?
I don't remember. It's right there.
Okay. What unit, do you remember what unit you're?
Oh, they made a corporal out of me, I think, and they something about drill instructor.
What,
On West Main Street.
in Rochester?
Yeah.
Okay. How long?
I loved it. I don't remember what I even went in there, but I was, my mind was doing this because of my wife, you know what I mean? I couldn't go anywhere. If she wasn't with me, I was in trouble. Everybody says, your own fault, your own fault. I said, well, yes and no. Being a foster kid, you know, and you always say you have your own kids, you're going to stay with them till they grow up, and which I did. But I don't regret it, and I do regret it for what I get out of it.
So you ended up a mechanic?
Oh, I was in the Teamsters for a while. I was in the heavy equipment there. I was for a while. I worked for the park department for 5 years, cutting trees. I did everything. I worked for RG&E. Kodak wanted me. I didn't want Kodak. I could have gone anywhere. Anywhere I go, I'm going to have trouble. I keep telling this doctor that. But see, that's a lot different than it is today. Today you get help. You can get help today.
How would you summarize your military experience?
I loved every bit of it.
Good group of guys you were with?
Hmm?
Good group of guys you were with?
With who now?
Were you with a good group of
People?
yes?
Oh, we had the best crew you could find in the Navy. We all liked each other. We all liked each other.
So you enjoyed your experience for the most part?
I'll tell you, if they let me back in, I would.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Leonard. We
Okay.
appreciate it. Did a good job.
I did the best I could. But see, you want to read that over, I come pretty close to it. There's
Right.
different things I might have messed up on.
That's okay. We've got.
But that ship was going back and forth so much.
That's amazing.
We had 3 different captains, I think, at one time,
It's amazing.
or different times.
Well, we appreciate you sharing this with us.
Okay.